Thank you so much for having us. We're here over this time. Mr. President, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you taking the time,
Good.
and we appreciate your commitment to answer our questions.
Sure.
Really appreciate that. Over the years, I've heard you talk about your adherence to a philosophy called positive thinking. This is the mantra that if you believe something, if you visualize it, then it will happen.
To an extent, I also think in terms of the downside.
Right.
I do. I've been given a lot of credit for positive thinking, but I also think about downside, because only a fool doesn't.
To what extent do you think that that positive thinking mindset is suitable to handling the worst pandemic that we've seen in a century?
I think you have to have a positive outlook. Otherwise, you would have nothing without a positive outlook. I think we've done an incredible job between the ventilators and stopping very infected people from China coming in, meaning putting the ban on China, which frankly nobody wanted me to do, practically nobody, because it was very early in January. Then putting the ban on Europe, not an easy thing to do. When you put a ban on Europe, that's a big thing. We would have probably lost hundreds of thousands of lives more had I not done that. And all of the experts, every one of them, not one of them wanted to do it. They thought it was too severe. 3 months later, they're all saying, I'm glad you did it.
The criticism of you that is most prominent is about the communication. It's the public health experts saying that it needs to be based in reality. And they're saying that the wishful thinking and the salesmanship is just not suitable at a time when a pandemic has killed 145,000 Americans. And it's that I understand what you're saying, that people need to hear positive thinking. But, you know, for the past 5 months, it's been the virus is totally under control, and the cases have been going up and the deaths have been going up.
Look.
But you've been saying it's under control.
Nobody knew what this thing was all about. This has never happened before. 1917, but it was a totally different, it was a flu in that case, okay? But other than 1917, there's never been anything like this. And by the way, if you watch the fake news on television, they don't even talk about it. But you know, there are 188 other countries right now that are suffering, some proportionately far greater than we are. Okay? As bad as we are.
Very few.
Some proportionately greater than we are. Right now, Spain is having a big spike. There are tremendous problems in the world. You look at Moscow, look at what's going on with Moscow, look at Brazil, look at these countries, what's going on. This was sent to us by China, one way or the other, and we're never gonna forget it. Believe me, we're never gonna forget it. And we were beating China at every single point. We were beating them on trade. We were making progress like nobody's ever made progress. They had, before the pandemic, they had the worst year, Jonathan, that they've had in 67 years. You know that, with the tariffs and everything else I did. We were taking in billions of dollars. I was giving some of it to the farmers. The farmers were doing well because I was targeting, they were targeting the farmers, I was targeting China. We were doing good. Then all of a sudden the game changed and I had to close it down. I closed down the greatest economy ever in history. And then I closed it down. And now we're opening it. And I say, by the way, by closing it down, we save millions of lives. If we would have gone to herd, and we knew very little about the disease, if we would have gone herd, we would have lost millions of people. One person's too much. We're at 140,000 people. One person is too much. We're at 140. We would have lost millions of people. And those people that really understand it, they really understand it. They said it's incredible the job that we've done. And again, I bring it up.
Who says that?
The banning China from coming in.
But it was already in here. By the time. It was already here. Like by the time you banned China, it came in through Europe.
Nobody knew the extent. Nobody knew how contagious it was.
But the question is, Mr. President,
maybe China knew.
By June, we knew things were bad. And you know, the last time I was with you was the day before your Tulsa rally in the Oval. And you know, you were saying big, huge crowd, it was indoors.
By the way,
these people, they listen to you.
Excuse me, Jeff.
Yeah.
We had a 19,000 seat stadium. First of all, we had 12,000 people, not 6,000, which you reported and other people reported. But you couldn't even get in. It was like an armed camp.
Why would you have wanted that?
120 Black Lives Matter people.
I understand, but why would you have wanted a huge
Tulsa,
crowd?
excuse me, wait. And Tulsa, well, because that area was a very good area at the time. It was an area that was
Cases
pretty
and
much
stuff.
over. After, a month later, it started going up. That's a month later. But Tulsa was a very good, Oklahoma was doing very well as a state. It was almost free. It spiked a month later, a month and a half, 2 months later, but it was a good area. We had a tremendous crowd. We had tremendous response. You couldn't even, it was like an armed camp. You couldn't even get through. You couldn't get anybody in.
But I'm
we
talking
had
about
12,000 people. It was incorrectly reported. The other thing we had that nobody wants to talk about, so Fox broadcast it. It was the highest rating in the history of Fox television, Saturday night. It was the highest rating.
Mr.
My
President.
speech, well, wait a minute, you're saying something.
Yeah.
That speech was the highest rated speech in the history of Fox television on Saturday night. And nobody says that.
I think you misunderstand me. I'm not criticizing your ability to draw a crowd. Are you kidding me? I've covered you for 5 years. You draw massive crowds, you get huge ratings. I'm asking about the public health.
And I canceled another one. I had to cancel it.
Right.
We're going to have a great crowd in New Hampshire, and I canceled it for the same reason.
But here's the question. I've covered you for a long time. I've gone to your rallies. I've talked to your people. They love you. They listen to you. They listen to every word you say. They hang on your every word. They don't listen to me or the media or Fauci. They think we're fake news. They want to get their advice from you. And so when they hear you say everything's under control, don't worry about wearing masks, I mean, these are people, many of them are older people,
What's
Mr.
your
President.
definition of control? Yeah. Under the
It's giving them a false sense of
right
security.
Now, I think it's under control. I'll tell you what.
How? 1,000 Americans are dying a day.
They are dying. That's true. And it is what it is. But that doesn't mean we aren't doing everything we can. It's under control as much as you can control it. This is a horrible plague that beset us.
You really think this is as much as we can control?
Well,
1,000
I'll tell
deaths
you,
a day?
I'd like to know if somebody, first of all, we have done a great job. We've gotten the governors everything they needed. They didn't do their job. Many of them didn't, and some of them did. Someday we'll sit down, we'll talk about the successful ones, the good ones. Look at that smile. The good ones and the bad. We had good and bad. And we had a lot in the middle. But we had some incredible governors. I could tell you right now who the great ones are and who the not-so-great ones are. But the governors do it. We gave them massive amounts of material.
Mr. President, you changed your message this week in terms of you cancelled the Jacksonville convention. You said wear a mask. You're saying, that it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's not something you like to say. I know you said that. The big question...
Not get worse like the original flow, you understand. But
I hope not. It's 1,000.
now if you look, Arizona's going down.
If I could just finish my question.
Texas is going down and Florida's going down.
The question is, are you going to, even some of your own aides wonder whether you would stick to that message until election day, whether in a week or two you won't say, right, we've got to reopen again, we can't do this stuff anymore, that you'll get bored of talking about the virus and go back to that sort of cheerleading?
I never get bored of talking about this. It's too big a thing. And again,
So will you stick to that message?
stopped by China. It should have been stopped by China, and it wasn't.
But now it's here,
We
and
have
you're the
it
president.
here. And I think I'm
You're the
very
leader.
consistent. No, this is a very serious thing. Do you think we have 140,000 people at this moment? This is a very, very serious situation. And what you have to do is handle it the best it can be handled. And again, I'm working with the governors. I got them tremendous amounts of equipment that they would have never gotten. Jonathan, they wouldn't have equipment now if I didn't get it.
When can you commit, by what date, that every American will have access to the same day testing that you get here in the White House?
Well, we have great testing. We're doing, and
By what
other
date?
people do. Let me explain the testing. We have tested more people than any other country, than all of Europe put together times 2. We have tested more people than anybody ever thought of. India has 1.4 billion people. They've done 11 million tests. You've done 55. It'll be close to 60 million tests. And, there are those that say, you can test too much. You do know that.
Who says that?
Just read the manuals, read the books.
Manual?
Read the
What
books.
manual?
Read the books. What books? What testing does? is
sorry.
It shows, wait a minute.
Who
John.
said-
Let me explain. What testing does, it shows cases. It shows where there may be cases. Other countries test. You know when they test? They test when somebody's sick. That's when they test. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong. Nobody's done it like we've done it. We've gotten absolutely no credit for it. But we've come up with so many different tests. The only thing that we have now is some people have to wait longer than we'd like them to. We want
big problem.
We want point to point. We want to have a 5-minute to a 15-minute
Right.
test.
When do you think?
And like many others,
every
From what
American.
I understand, we're close to 50% where it's point-to-point test. We are making thousands of instruments, thousands of tests right now, tens of thousands that can be distributed to various parts of the country. But you have to understand, and we've even sent some of them to other countries where they had a big problem. Jonathan, almost 50%, in fact, I think the number might be over, is immediate testing. The other's tough. You take a test, you have to send it to a laboratory. Let's say that takes a day. Let's say it's a day.
It's difficult.
You know, so it's 3 or 4 or 5 days. There's nothing you do about that.
But when do you think you'll have it for
I
everyone?
think that you
What
will
day?
have that relatively soon. I mean,
What does
again,
that mean?
You already have half.
Yeah.
I would much rather get back to you because I don't want to have you
That's
write
fine.
in 1 month.
That's
I
fine.
didn't make it. I missed it by
Yeah,
a day,
I
and
get
it's
it.
a headline.
Mr. President, I want to talk about the federal intervention.
Excuse me, one thing I would say about
Yeah.
testing. Because we test so much, we show cases. So we show many, many cases. We show tremendous number of. I know you're smiling when I say that.
No, but come on, I mean, I've heard you say this,
Other countries don't test like we do, so they don't show cases.
Just a couple of points on that. I wasn't going to continue on the testing, but you said it. So we're testing so much because it's spread so far in America.
We're testing
when you
so much because we had the ability to test.
Okay.
Because we came up with
but
this.
South Korea-
Jonathan, we didn't even have a test. When I took over, we didn't even have a test. Now, in all fairness,
why would you
there
have a
was
test?
no test
The virus
for
didn't
this.
exist. How would
There was no test for this. We didn't have a test because there was no test. In a very short order, we got one test, we got another test.
It was broken the first
Many of those tests are now obsolete because we've, it's called science, and all of a sudden something's better. But because we tested so many people, 55, 60 million people very soon, we get cases. You test, some kid has even just a little runny nose, it's a case. And then you report many cases. So we look like we have more cases than massive countries like China, which, by the way, doesn't report, as you know.
Well, I don't put any stock in China's
No, the
figures.
point is, because we are so much better at testing than any other country in the world, we show more cases.
The figure I look at is death. And death is going up now. And it's 1,000 a day.
If you look at death...
Yeah, it's going up again. Daily death.
Take a look at some of these charts.
I'd love to.
We're going to look.
Let's look.
And if you look at death...
Yeah. It's starting to go up again.
Now, right here, the United States is lowest in numerous categories. We're lower than the world.
Lower than
Lower than Europe.
In what? In what?
Take a look. Right here. Here's case death.
Oh, you're doing death as a proportion of cases. I'm talking about death as a proportion of population. That's where the US is really bad.
Well,
Much worse than South Korea, Germany, etc.
you can't do that. You have to go by where. Look, here is the United States. You have to go by the cases. The cases.
Why not as a proportion of
When you have
population?
somebody, what it says is when you have somebody that
Yeah.
has where there's a case.
Oh, okay.
The people that live
Sure.
from
Oh.
those cases.
It's surely a relevant statistic to say if the US has X population and X percentage of death of that population
No,
versus
because you
South
have to
Korea.
go by the cases.
Well, look at South Korea, for example. 51 million population, 300 deaths. It's like, it's crazy.
You don't know that.
I do. It's on
You
the,
don't know that.
You think they're faking their statistics? South Korea?
I
An
won't get
advanced
into
country?
that because they have a very good relationship
Yeah.
with the country. But you don't know that. And they have spikes. Look, here's
Germany,
one.
low,
Here's
9,000.
one. Here's one right here. United States. You take
Anyway.
the number of cases.
Okay.
Look, we're last. Meaning we're first.
Last, I don't know what we're first in. As a
Take a
what?
look. Again, it's cases.
Okay.
And we have cases because of the testing. Wait,
1,000 Americans a day a day. But I understand on cases, it's different.
no, but you're not reporting it correctly, Jonathan.
I think I am, but
If you take a look at this other chart, look, this is our testing, I believe. This is the testing, yeah.
yeah, we do more tests.
No, wait a minute. Well, don't we get credit for that? And because we do more tests, we have more cases. In other words, we test more. We have. Now take a look. The top one, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. The top, Jonathan.
If hospital rates were going down and deaths were going down, I'd say terrific. You deserve to be praised for testing, but they're all going up.
They very rarely talk.
60,000 Americans are in hospital.
You watch the
1,000
news
dying
or
a
read the
day.
papers. They usually talk about new cases, new cases, new cases.
I'm talking about death.
Well, you look at death is way down from where it was.
It's 1,000 a day. It was 2,500. It went down to 500. Now it's going up again.
Excuse me, where it was is much higher than where it is right now.
Went down, went up again.
But now it's going down again. It's going down in Arizona. It's going down in Florida.
Nationally,
it's going down in Texas. Take a look at this. These are the tests.
It's going down in Florida.
It leveled out and it's going down. That's my report as of yesterday.
Anyway, Mr. President, if I could change subject.
It is going down in Arizona.
Arizona it is. Arizona it is. Texas has big problems.
And it spiked and it's now going down in Florida. It's evened out and going down in Florida.
I'll have to see those.
But you have to look at this. This is the number of tests compared
I
to the
don't
rest
deny
of
your
the world.
figures. You've done more tests by far than the rest of them. I don't deny that.
Because we've done more tests, we have more cases. You can take
more
it, check it out.
Mr. President, different subject. It's been widely reported that the US has intelligence indicating that Russia paid bounties or offered to pay bounties to Taliban fighters to kill American soldiers. You had a phone call with Vladimir Putin on July 23rd. Did you bring up this issue?
No, that was a phone call to discuss other things, and frankly, that's an issue that many people said was fake news.
Who said it was fake news?
I think a lot of people, if you look at some of the wonderful folks from the Bush administration, some of them, not any friends of mine, were saying that it's a fake issue. But a lot of people said it's a fake issue.
There was dispute
We had a
within
call
intelligence.
talking about nuclear proliferation, which
Right.
is a very big subject, where they would like to do something and so would I. We discussed numerous things. We did not discuss that, no.
And you've never discussed it.
I have never discussed it with them. I would. I'd have no problem with it.
But you don't believe the
it
intelligence.
never-
It's because you don't believe the intelligence, that's why.
Everything, it's interesting. Nobody ever brings up China. They always bring Russia, Russia, Russia. If we can do something with Russia in terms of nuclear proliferation, which is a very big problem, bigger problem than global warming, a much bigger problem than global warming in terms of the real world, that would be a great thing. It never reached my desk. You know why? Because they didn't think it was intelligence. They didn't think it was real.
It was in your written brief.
They didn't think it was worthy of it. I wouldn't mind. If it reached my desk, I would have done something about it. It never reached my desk because...
Do you read your written brief?
I do. I read a lot.
Really?
You know, I read a lot. They like to say I don't read. I read a lot.
Your daily
I
intelligence
comprehend
brief?
extraordinarily well. Probably better than anybody that you've interviewed in a long time. I read a lot. I spend a lot of time at meetings. Usually it's once a day or at least 2 or 3 times a week intelligence.
Because this was apparently
talking about India, talking about with the problems with China, talking about so many different elements of the world. The world is a very angry place. If you look all over the world, I call up, I see 22 soldiers were killed in India with China fighting over the border.